Testing. Testing. tonight's Planning Commission meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at the City of Clearlake Chambers on June 13th, 2022. I'll correct that to say June 14th, 2022. As a reminder, if you're on our Zoom meeting as a participant, please put yourself on mute unless you are speaking. We are currently live streaming this meeting on the city's YouTube channel and the Lake County PEG TV live stream YouTube channel. To begin, may I please have a roll call?
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner McCarrick.
Here.
Vice Chair Coker.
Here.
Chair Wilson.
Here. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. For those present, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now adopt the agenda, but first I'll ask if there are any changes to the agenda.
There are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the Planning Commission on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city? The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the commission or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The commission cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Seeing no public comments in the chambers, I'll inquire if there are any public comments by phone or by Zoom.
There are none.
Thank you. We have 2 consent items. I'll take a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
I move to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. There are no items scheduled for public hearing for tonight's meeting. We have a business item, which is item number 3, and the presentation of Planning Commission norms and procedures. Staff, would you like to proceed?
Excuse me, hang on one second. Let me get the PowerPoint up. Hey, Justin, can you let me, I'm unable to do a screen share for some reason. Oh, here we go. Yes. Should be on a slideshow.
All right. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Tonight, we're going to go over the norms and procedures for the Planning Commission. We'll start with the role of the Planning Commissioner is to participate in the development of the general plan, housing element, and zoning code, to facilitate community engagement, conduct study sessions and other forums, review the general plan, housing element, and zoning code, to conduct public hearings, and finally make a recommendation to the City Council for adoption, which is the legislative process. Additionally, for approvals and amendments to the general plan, housing element, and zoning code, you would then also conduct public hearings and make a recommendation to City Council for adoption. For implementation, this includes individual development project review, site and architectural permits, conditional use permits and variances, tentative subdivision maps, determinations of consistency with the general plan and zoning code, and project approval, reviewing the general plan, housing element, and zoning code. So what does it say in the municipal code that Planning Commission does? So Planning Commission, according to the Clearlake Municipal Code, prepares and recommends for adoption by the City Council a comprehensive long-term general plan for the physical development of the city and of any land outside its boundaries in which the Planning Commission's judgment bears relation to its planning. It also prepares specific plans based on the general plan and the drafting of such regulations, programs, and legislation as in the Planning Commission's judgment may be required for the execution of the general plan and to make those recommendations to council. It acts as the advisory agency for the city in connection to the administration of the Subdivision Map Act and the city's subdivision regulations. It performs the duties of the Planning Commission as prescribed by law and prepares and recommends for adoption by the council a zoning ordinance and to perform any other duties in reference to planning and zoning and land use matters as the council asks. Special projects from time to time aren't unheard of to be assigned to the Planning Commission by the council. So what does it take to become to be a planning commissioner? You need to know a lot about the community and bring that special expertise to the commission. As each of you know, you have to be a resident of the city of Clearlake, and it helps to know the zoning code. It helps to live here and know what issues the community faces. You maintain an open mind to listen to new ideas. You have the ability to see the strengths and the weaknesses of all the projects, and together use creativity to find solutions when working with others. A planning commissioner needs to have a willingness to spend time required to study materials and attend meetings regularly, which I'm sure all of you know takes a lot of time. A lot of those projects are pretty detailed and a lot of paperwork. You have to have a commitment to making the process fair for everybody who comes before the Planning Commission. And last but not least, have faith in the future and the ability of the community to shape that future. Open and fair decision-making is critical to whether the public trusts what the government is doing. Open and fair decision-making is critical to whether the public trusts what the government is doing. I'm going to say that 2 times. What we do needs to be trusted by the public. So the role of the Planning Commission is vital to this. Some of the mistakes that planning commissions make throughout the state, throughout United States, I'm not talking about specifically to Clearlake, but know the difference between a public hearing and a public meeting. These are 2 different things. A public meeting is a regular meeting, and it's defined by just regular business conducted by the commission. A public hearing is a special type of public meeting for the purpose of the commission accepting public comment and testimony. This has to be noticed in the newspaper 10 days ahead of time, and it is a specific listing under the agenda. Actual or apparent conflicts of interest. If you or a member of your family stand to gain from a case before the Planning Commission, you should disclose this to the Planning Commission in a public meeting when the case is introduced. You should abstain from voting, and you should remove yourself from the room during discussion of the case. If there is a conflict of interest, don't discuss the case with other members of the Planning Commission. Showing up unprepared. You should be thoroughly familiar with the written site plan and the staff report for each case you are about to hear, and you should always visit the subject property to visually verify the information in the report and to observe conditions at the site and surrounding properties for yourself. You may also need to review engineering reports, traffic data, and other information to be fully informed. Don't be afraid to ask questions before the meeting. Asking a complicated question at the meeting without first discussing it with staff can cause delays in the project, particularly when a question requires research and response by staff. Don't be afraid to disagree. A planning commission is a collaborative body relying on multiple perspectives and shared information from many sources to provide a balanced decision that emphasizes what is best for the community. Healthy discussion, differing perspectives, and sharing of information can help ensure that a planning commission's decision is what's in the community's best interest. Don't make up your mind beforehand. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide objective decisions in the community's best interest based upon the facts and the community's plan. As a planning commissioner, your responsibility is not to prejudge the case, but make your best decision based on the information available to you. Another mistake is getting political. Planning commissioners serve their communities by providing reasoned, objective recommendations on land's use and other community development policies that support the community's best interests. Your job is to make the decisions and recommendations that are consistent with the city's planning and zoning laws, the standards for decisions. Commissioners should not typically consult the city council, the applicant, or property owner on land use matters that come before them. And finally, overstepping authority. Commissioners are assigned to review land use and planning matters. They may want to venture out of their assignment, such as reviewing potholes in streets or evaluating the performance of a particular staff member or department. These are outside the purview of the Planning Commission and should not be discussed as a matter of city business at the Planning Commission. A planning commissioner is also a citizen of the city and can consult with staff on matters outside of their assigned purview, not outside of a meeting. Norms and procedures. So just to go over some logistics about meetings, I'll go over the Brown Act and I'll go over the commission procedures. So as you all probably know, the chair and the vice chair is chosen annually at the first meeting in March by motion and majority vote. And the chair and vice chair serve March through February. The reason that chairs are chosen in March is that the terms are up in March. So once if we have new planning commissioners, we also choose a chair at that time. Okay, meeting attendance. Planning commissioners need to attend 75% of the scheduled meetings. Otherwise, they're subject to removal by council. But if you have an excuse or, something's going on, then we just write a memo to council and we work with you on it. But if you're just chronically not coming, that can be an issue. Ethics training and anti-harassment trainings are both required of all of the planning commissioners. And then, thank you. The commission majority gives direction to the city manager, and commissioners work through the city manager on issues, concerns, and questions. Individual commissioners with requests for information that again needs to go through the city manager, and anything that would take over an hour of staff time needs to be approved by the majority of the commission. And we ask that you limit your requests to an average of 3 to 5 per week. Regular meetings obviously are the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month, but special meetings can be called by the chair or by a majority of the commission if the need arises. Special meetings can include study sessions, joint meetings, etc. And 3 members of the commission constitute a quorum. If fewer than 3 arrive at a meeting, either in person or via Zoom, then we adjourn to a different time. Commission discussion. Any briefings involving a majority of the commission have to be open to the public and properly noticed. That is the Brown Act requirement. However, an informal memo doesn't fall under the Brown Act and can be sent from staff to the planning commission as long as the planning commission does not then engage either via email or in person by hitting reply all in the email or having a discussion about city business away from a meeting. So if you receive an email either from staff or sometimes from the public, an applicant has a project and they're really excited about it. They want to tell everybody and they send an email out to staff and copy the planning commission and say, you know, here's my project, blah, 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 and list what's going on in their email. A common mistake could be to reply to that email, hitting reply all, and that then would engage the other planning commissioners via email and would be a Brown Act violation. Alrighty. So serial meetings. I just went through an example of a Brown Act violation. Another one is what's called a daisy chain meeting. And that happens when Planning Commissioner 1 calls Planning Commissioner 2 and talks about an item. Then Planning Commissioner 2 would then call Planning Commissioner 3 and say, hey, I just talked to Planning Commissioner 1 about this item. What do you think about it? Well, this person thinks that about it. And then that has a discussion either via email or, you know, telephone call, however it works. So just be aware you can talk to one other member of the Planning Commission, but then it becomes very easy to fall into that trap because then that person also has to be aware that you can only talk to each other. And this other person isn't then talking to the next person. Like if Planning Commissioner Coker talks with Commissioner McCarrick needs to make sure that, you know, Chair Wilson doesn't talk to Planning Commissioner McCarrick. It's just, you have to be very careful on who you're talking to on the Planning Commission. But you are able to talk to one other. Serial meetings happen when when employee A calls Commissioner 1 to discuss the topic, then Commissioner 2 and 3 telling those commissioners again what the opinions of the other commissioners are. So that was a quick overview of the Brown Act. The role of the chair is to maintain order and decorum during the meeting and maintain control of communication between the commissioners and among the commissioners, staff, and public. The role of the chair shall intervene when a commissioner, staff, or other public meeting participant is being verbally or otherwise attacked by a member of the public, with the city manager being the sergeant at arms. And in the absence of the city manager, that would be the senior planner. So get a mark. Okay, so Rosenberg's rules of order is how the both the city council and the planning commission meetings are run. So Rosenberg's rules of order say that rules should establish order, rules should be clear, they should be user-friendly, and enforce the will of the majority while protecting the rights of the minority. We're going to tell the public what the commission will be doing, keep the public informed while they're doing it, And when the commission makes a decision, we're going to tell the public what it was. So when the agenda item comes up, the chair announces the agenda item number, states the agenda item subject and the format for considering the item. Then staff gives report. The chair asks if there's any technical questions, invites public comment, and then closes the discussion and invites commission discussion. There are three basic motions. There's one that puts forward a decision for the commission's consideration, which is a basic motion, the motion we use 99% of the time. There is a motion to amend, which changes the basic motion at the request of the motion maker and with the consent of the commissioner who seconded. So for example, if a motion is made to adopt a resolution and it's seconded, however, the city attorney says that there's some additional language that needs to be included in that motion or resolution. That motion to amend can be made by the person who made the motion with the person who seconded it with their approval. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what a motion to amend is. The third type of motion is rarely used. A substitute motion is a completely different action than the first motion. So for example, again, the commission makes a motion and a second to adopt a resolution. However, one of the commission doesn't agree and states it's a motion to deny an appeal, let's say. So there are two motions on the floor, one to adopt and authorize the appeal, I suppose. The second to deny the appeal. So when you have two motions, you vote on the substitute motion first. You vote on the last motion made. Next slide. Sorry. Yep. Okay, so you vote on the last motion made. So that would be the motion to deny. And once that's done, if the substitute motion fails, then you vote on the motion. So the first motion. So the discussion is focused solely on the motion at hand, not on the validity of the original motion. And if both fail, the chair would then deal with the original motion and the discussion can be focused on the original subject again. Exciting stuff, right? All right, motions that are not debatable. A motion to adjourn, a motion to recess, a motion to fix the time to adjourn, and that would be, we're leaving here no later than 7 o'clock. I move. Second, and passed. There's not debate on that one. A motion to table the item, meaning if the commission does not want to hear an item tonight, and we're going to table that to the July meeting. So that motion again would not be debatable. And then those actually, like I stated up here, all of those require a simple majority vote. So another motion that is rare but happens is when a chair proposes to limit debate for an item. Let's say, for example, we have an appeal of a decision and the chair says, we're going to hear this appeal for 30 minutes. So moved to hear this for 30 minutes and seconded. At that point, there's no debate on this item for this motion, and it requires 4 out of 5 of the planning commissioners to vote in favor in order to limit it to a half an hour of discussion or however long. So, okay. So after a vote is taken, if one of the commissioners reconsiders their vote, they have to make the motion to reconsider the vote at the same meeting and it has to be made by a person who voted in the majority. So a motion to reconsider an item would be if the, I suppose if the, appeal was voted 3-2, and one of the members who voted in favor of the appeal would then want to reconsider because perhaps additional testimony came out later on during a different item, or somebody came in late and wanted to be heard. So then the motion to reconsider would be made, and you could then discuss it as if you were hearing it for the first time. Majority votes are 3 out of 5 of the commissioners, but a tie vote occurs when there is a 2-2 vote with a planning commissioner absent or abstaining. When there's a 2-2 vote, the motion fails. And next, we have courtesy and decorum during discussion. These are rarely used, but just for your info, to have them in your back pocket in case something is going on that you can't hear the meeting going on correctly, if the AC is too loud, or the normal comfort of the meeting. That's a point of privilege. A point of order is something that doesn't if something doesn't relate to the item at hand, and the chair or another member wants to get the discussion back on track, you would use a point of order. Any commissioner may appeal the ruling of the chair if the appeal is seconded and there's a majority vote. And an example of this would be tonight, if the planning commissioners didn't agree with Chair Wilson's discussion or decision to adopt the agenda. For example, there wasn't a motion made. We just had the commission adopt the agenda. Chair said, we'll move on. But if a planning commissioner said, wait a minute, there's an item missing here, or something to that effect, then that would be an appeal. The commissioner may appeal the ruling of the chair if it's seconded and with the majority vote. Makes sense? Okay. And almost last but not least, calls for order of the day. If the commission gets off topic, discussion from the public gets off topic, the chair can call for the commission to return to the agenda item discussion. Again, that's focusing that discussion. That's an order for the call for order of the day. And last but not least, the maker of a motion on the floor may withdraw that motion at any time. But another commissioner or the chair can make that motion in its replace. So, ta-da! Exciting stuff, right? But I'm happy to answer questions you may have. I know it's a lot of information to throw at you, and sometimes it's a dry presentation, but appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Do we have any questions from the staff or comments from the staff on this item? Commissioner Williams?
I do have one question just for clarification. Under commission relationship with staff, it says individual commissioner requests for information are made to the city manager or administrative services director or the city clerk.
Yep.
Is that for something outside of the agenda? Because typically when I have questions about an item, I contact the senior planner.
So often it can, and that's fine. the protocol is normally to go through the city manager and not directly to staff in many items. And normally it's management. So like the city manager, the senior planner, myself, and so that would typically be okay.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Williams?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stewart, do you have any questions or comments?
I do. It's mainly referring to the required training through FPPC.
Yeah.
I've already run afoul with them on reporting requirements and paid fines. So how do I go on their website and how do I do this training? Because I don't want to get fined for not doing that.
Sure. I will send you the link. When a planning commissioner joins, we typically do an overview either via email or in person and include all of that information. And so I can send it to you.
That would be most helpful since I've been here since November and that's never happened yet, which is why I ended up with a fine. And also, I've been unable to use their website because according to what I can tell, they actually have to issue me a login or a sign in or something, and I cannot get any response from anyone there. So I've conducted so far all my stuff by snail mail through the city manager and redundant copies by mail to the FPPC. So
Okay.
any help would be appreciated there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Coker, do you have any questions or comments?
Mine is the same as Terry's. I just can't get onto the websites to do any of the paperwork. So if I can
There's
get,
yeah, I can give you their telephone number. The FPPC regulates the planning commission and the city councils Form 700s, and it's not done at the city level. So all we do on our end at the city level is input your name into their system. Then they take care of contacting you and giving you all the links and all of that. So they have a phone number that you can call directly. And then also an email address that you send to an email to let them know. Unfortunately, on our end, I can't like regulate it for you or help you with your passwords or things like that, but I can certainly assist you with getting their contact info.
yeah, because I would rather have a paper copy so I could fill it out and mail it back to them.
Mhm.
It's much easier for me to do than in the
Yeah.
computer stuff.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner McCarrick, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Similar to what Commissioner Williams said, I definitely thought I was supposed to be emailing Mark. So is it easier if we just email the city manager, yourself, and the senior planner all together, or just keep it to the city manager?
Since the city manager's not here, I can't answer specifically for him, but I haven't heard from him any differences on how it should be handled. I believe that emailing the senior planner is just fine by Alan.
I can do all three. It's no big deal. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure I'm doing it right. And then my other question was on slide 7 and 8, the roles of the role of the planning commissioner qualities. And there's, a couple things that seem vague, because I always say that, a planning commissioner's role is boring, right? Does it fit? It should be boring. Does it fit with the zoning code? Does it fit with the general code, et cetera? So there's a couple things in here that, know a lot about the community and bring your expertise to it, have an open mind, understand the strengths and weaknesses, have faith in the future and ability of the community to shape that future. And that one, so all of these are kind of vague to me in a sense of balancing being boring and making sure that it does just abide to the code with either community members who are expressing concerns or your own expertise that may influence a decision or that. So I was actually surprised to see these slides in here because they are a little bit more subjective than objective or than a role. So I just wanted any more clarification on that, any additional reading we could do to kind of clarify what the role is and how to balance what the community is looking for and personal stuff with just the black and white of the rules.
Absolutely. So to answer your first question, there are trainings that happen annually. And I believe that probably most of you have gone to the annual conference of the planning commissioners through the Cal Cities. So on the second part, I think that the role of a planning commissioner, while it is to follow the black and white of the regulations, not all of the black and white, not all of the regulations are spectacularly black and white. And each community is its own individual community, whereas we're different from Lakeport, we're different from the county of Lake, we're different from Willits, and each community has its own plan of growth, its own general plan. And I think that what these slides are saying is taking that into effect along with each planning commissioner's own experience and, you know, your own experiences with in the planning arena, which is why you are all here. I think it's just a more holistic approach. And I don't know if Mark maybe has something to add.
It's
You're meeting the spirit of the general plan.
yeah, it's challenging. It's
Yeah.
kind of like what a good way Mike put it is meeting the intent and spirit of it. There's always going to be that double-edged sword, whether it meets it or it doesn't meet it. And it's like you're saying, Commissioner, there's that, the black and white part of it. If it meets it, great. If it doesn't meet it, then what do? It's that trying to make sure it meets the intent, but also not only meeting the intent, but protecting the health and safety of everybody that's around it or the community in general, but also making sure that one is going to be successful and bring, great opportunities to our area. But it's challenging. So it's something that definitely where you need it's hard to keep an open mind to things when it's challenging to work with and frustrating when it clearly states one thing, but you're also, it's just like the intent or the objective or the goal of it, but it's not clear. It makes it for a difficult situations and decisions at time. But we try to work with everybody that we can, and we bring projects before you. It's like Melissa said, you keep an open mind to it because there's always ways to achieve somebody's goal. It may not be the goal they're looking for or the exact thing, but you get close to it with the intent of the code. So it's just something to be creative with, I guess. If that helps any.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I've actually picked up the general plan for some recreational reading lately. So get all beefed up on it.
Thank you. I think also at every meeting, we have the opportunity to add to a future agenda item. So if you saw a gap or if a community member brought something to one of us, we could refer it back to staff. I don't have any other comments on this topic. Thank you for
right.
your time.
Thank you.
It's now time for City Manager, Community Development Director, and staff and commissioner reports. Does staff have any reports?
So for reports, we're processing an array of applications. I know Mike our assistant planner Taylor is processing a few use permits, a lot of mergers and lot lines that we're trying to get through as quick as possible. Danco for Oak Valley Villas did pick up their permit today, and they are expected to start bringing equipment on Thursdays and Friday. So this week, so you'll start to see some development over on the Burns Valley area of the 80 units. So if you get calls or questions about it, that's probably why. They're eager to get going and construct that as quick as possible. We do have a handful of other use permits that we are currently processing, and those will be coming before you shortly, as soon as we can. And then Mike and I are also creating a list of potential modifications to the zoning ordinance that we're seeing throughout it to come back with amendments, and we'll be bringing that before you shortly as well. So if you feel if there's anything you'd like us to be alerted of or concerns that Mike and I can look into regarding that matter, we can do that as well. Mike, do you have anything else you'd like to add for your projects?
Well, just a lot that's been coming up now is MEHKOs, which are micro enterprise home operations under the state of California. They're considered somewhat of a hazard, it's hazard foods. So the state has now mandated that local jurisdictions adopt these regulations. So the county of Lake is doing the permitting for that, but we, as the city of Clearlake, have to permit them somehow. And we do that usually through a home occupation permit. And there is some flexibility there to, I won't say negotiate with the applicant on how that is shaped. Because for instance, if it's in a residential district and they want to put in somewhat of a restaurant where you're going to have traffic and that sort of thing, we have to really look at our zoning ordinance and inform the applicant that you may not be able to do this because you can't meet the parking requirements, but we still can't deny them, that per the state of California, which is mandated that we allow this activity in, specifically residential areas. So it's an attempt to create more jobs. That's kind of the jux behind it for the state. So and I think one of the things we need to do eventually is kind of meet with the County of Lake on environmental health and really work this out as to what that looks like in terms of our coordination with the County of Lake and what they need to do, and then how we address it here in terms of our permitting for home occupation MEHKOs, which are micro enterprise homes. And also it came out actually in 2013, regulations for cottage home operations, which is one step below MEHKOs, which is a little more flexible. We can work with that a little better, but we need to really look at our zoning ordinance and beef that up so that we can thoroughly address how we permit those. So that's kind of one of the big items that's going to be coming up for zoning ordinance updates. So
like to kind of go off what Mike was saying, it makes it challenging because some of these lots are only 4,000 to 6,000 square feet and in size. So with like your standard LDR lot is maybe 50 by 100. There's some of them that own vacant lots next door, then that gets into a different process if they want to use that vacant lot in relation to their MHKO. So like Mike was saying, the biggest thing that is parking, because we had some that come in and wanted to open up like Mike was saying, an indoor restaurant with seating of 10. Well, there isn't enough parking on site for that operation. Then you get into other concerns. But they can do delivery, they can do pickup. So they may have to just modify it a little bit, but it's starting to become quite popular. We probably have gotten over, if you average it out, we probably get 1 to 2 a week for questions regarding this matter. The county, when the ordinance was passed by the county, they are going to limit it, I think either 10 per supervisor district. If I remember off the top of my head, they're limiting the numbers. And I think we only approved maybe one so far, but we've gotten a lot of inquiries about this opportunity for people. Some of the ones are still working on their documentations, their site plans, and they're gonna be coming back. But it's with everything that's going on and, you know, opportunities for individuals, I see it becoming a bigger endeavor for individuals within our jurisdiction. Yes,
Are these kitchens, primarily kitchens, cottage kitchens, food? It's all food oriented.
correct. Yeah, it could be jams, jellies. People have want to do smoked goods like chicken, meat products. They want to be able to sit down and cook for individuals or do pre-cooked dinners where individuals either get it delivered to their house or they can actually come and actually pick it up on site, then go back to their house. So it's a very unique opportunity for people, and it makes it very challenging at times for us to meet that that intent that where they're able to achieve their goal.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Does any commissioner have any item to report? Thank you. Now we move to the final item on the agenda, which is future agenda items. Does any commissioner have a request for a future agenda item? Seeing none, thank you to everyone who took the time to submit their comments and to those who are watching our meeting on Zoom and YouTube. There being no further business of the commission, we are now adjourned at 6:47 on June 14th, 2022.